Welcome back again. We are now getting into the practical stages of this course, so I hope you're getting excited. Everything we've done to this point is to prepare us to actually do the work. There's one last bit of preparation we want to do. It's actually an activity. In other words, we're going to be working with a client. That's why we have our friendly client over here, or subject, volunteer, however you think about it. Victim is my preferred term. There's one last thing we want to be doing here, which is still part of our setup, and it's going to prepare us for doing the actual hypnotic session. And again, it's important we don't rush any of these stages, because the better we do this preparation work, the easier the other stuff is going to be afterwards. So this is basically resetting the framework that we've already set up ahead of time. So we've met somewhere, say, and I've invited them to come along as a volunteer. Now that we're about to start over again, I need to check that all those frames are still in place and nothing's going on. So we'll go through that quickly first, and then we'll have a little discussion about how that went. So how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yes.
Excellent, very good. You excited to try this out?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. So, what's your name again, sorry?
Khirat.
Khirat.
Yes.
Khirat. I will apologize ahead of time if I say it wrong. So, Khirat, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to go through an exploration of the mind, right? There's nothing really expected of you in terms of you don't have to do anything or perform anyway or anything like that. All that I need to know is how does your mind respond to different ideas, different situations, and so on. So there's no right or wrong way, unless you try too hard or you don't try at all. So don't ignore it, don't try too hard. Just explore where your mind takes you. Make sense?
Yes.
Now I'm going to take some notes as we go along with this, just to kind of keep on track. This helps me to do the research part, which you've thankfully very kindly volunteered for. And I'm presuming that's okay for me just to take notes as we talk through it.
Okay, yeah.
Excellent. So, do you have any questions for me before we begin? Any concerns? Anything you want to chat about?
No.
No? You ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready to rock and roll.
You excited?
Yes.
Okay.
Very excited.
So, that's the setup. In the next video clip, we'll talk a little bit about what happened there and why we're doing that. I'd like to take a few moments before we continue into the actual session now to talk about what you just witnessed there, what we just did. Remember, everything we've talked about up to this point is about preparing your subject to have the right mindset so there is no pressure on you. What you just do happening here is an example of a little pre-talk before we do the hypnosis, but of course we're not calling it hypnosis now, it's just an experiment so that the pressure doesn't come up anymore. There are a couple of key things that I want to do here. Number one, I need to reconnect with the person on a personal level. I need to check the levels of rapport. So I'm very friendly, a little chatty. How are you doing? Nice for you to come. Thank you for being here. I kind of see myself as the host of the party, and my job is to put that person at ease. The next thing I want to do is I want to flush out, or rather I want to make sure that the frames I presented ahead of time are still in their mind, that there's no deviation inside why they are here. They have to have the same expectation that I have. The expectation is, in this case, we're going to do an experiment. We're going to look at how the mind works, how your mind works. You'll learn some fascinating things about yourself, and I'll get to do my research, so we both win out. That's the perfect frame, because now, with that research idea in mind, the experimental idea in mind, there are no risks, there's no failure. It's just a question of action and reaction. I do X, let's see how you react. That's very interesting, thank you very much. I do Y, let's see how you react. Oh, that's fantastic, thank you very much. If those reactions are more and more hypnotic, phenomenal. Now I can lead towards hypnosis. If they're not, that's just fine too, because this is just how that person's reacting, and you can tell them, great, you have some very interesting reactions, and you've been very helpful to me. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. So whatever happens, it'll always be of benefit, something will have been learned, and so the interaction has been worthwhile. The next thing I want to do is, so I've checked my rapport with them, now I've checked the frames are still firmly in set. Now I want to look at any questions. I want to see if there's any doubts in his mind, any questions, any concerns, or if he heard the frames but misunderstood them maybe. I want to check these things out. So I'll leg it over to them. Do you have any questions for me? Is there anything you want to talk about? Is there any concerns that you have at this stage? And I'm looking specifically at how his body's reaction. If he's like, no, that's kind of an extreme version of the fear reaction. Not a happy place to be. If that happens, I need to have a longer conversation before we begin with anything mental, because I want to flush those things out. Usually I don't expect any questions. It's like, no, I'm happy to go. Sometimes they'll say something which alerts me to the fact that they're not in the right space yet. They might say, oh, no, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to meet the challenge, or I'm ready to see if you can make me do this. If I hear anything like that, which is that combative frame again, me against you, right? Do your worst, really try hard, see if you can crack me. As soon as I hear any language like that, I'm going to pause everything. There is no point me proceeding if there is a block, an obstacle between myself and the subject, the volunteer, the client, however you want to look at this person. No point whatsoever. I need to remove those blocks ahead of time. I'll say, oh, hang on a second, before we begin, I'm just curious. You said, try and crack me there. What exactly do you mean by that? Because, well, you're going to try and crack into my mind. I'm ready for you. And go, oh, I'm sorry. I think you misunderstood. This is not that kind of hypnosis. I'm not going to hypnotize you today. All I am interested in is your natural reaction inside your mind. If you're trying to do something, you'll ruin the whole experiment. There's really no point us starting here. And I go, oh, really? Yeah. This is just about how your thinking happens naturally, when you're not thinking about it too much, when some ideas arise and something pleasant happens as a result, or not. That's what I'm interested in. If they accept the frame at this point, then we can continue. If they go, but no, I want to hold on, I want to fight, I want to see where this takes me, then I will end the session and say, oh, I'm sorry. It seems that we had a misunderstanding here. What you're expecting from this session really has nothing to do with what I'm doing here. So I'm really sorry I've wasted your time. Have a nice life, go home, and maybe I'll see you next Tuesday at the art class, right? It is very important you do not proceed until your hypnotic context is in place. And that's why I threw those little questions in at the end there, to flush out anything I may have missed. As it happens, in this case, in this setting, it's pretty good. He's curious about what might happen, maybe a bit nervous because he's not quite sure what will happen. Nervousness is okay. Fear is not. So a little bit like, yeah, I don't know about this. It's okay. But says, what's going to happen? That's a very different reaction. That's much more a blocking reaction. So experience will show you which one you go with and which one you don't. In this case, we have a client or a subject who is was a little bit stressed, just a little bit, as unusual. I don't know what's going to be expected of me, what I'm going to do. Very small. That's very useful because it'll actually bypass the critical factor for us. So I'm very happy with that. If it had been more than that, once again, time out, rebuild the relationship, more comfort, more trust, maybe a little bit of humor, reset the frame. This is nothing is expected of you. You don't have to try hard. You don't have to get a result. I'm not going to be judging you or evaluating you. This is not a psychologist's report that's going to go on file and your insurance company is going to raise its premium for the next 10 years because, you think you're crazy or something. Nothing like that. All this is totally anonymous research. I need to find out if I meet 100 people and I do the same kind of mental experiments, or you can think of them as thought experiments, how does each person react? Do they all go down the same path? Do they go down different paths? Are they similar? How are they different? So the only thing I need from you is your natural reaction. Now with that frame reset, if they accept it, now I can work with them. If I cannot move through that fear, well then, just like the other person, I will excuse them and arrange to see someone else. There is no point, especially at this low level of working, when we're starting off, we have no real experience in hypnosis yet, there is no point in working with someone whose mind already has blocks or obstacles in the way. Now, it is true, with more experience, as you grow as a hypnotist and get more confidence in your techniques and skills, now you can work with more challenging clients, the people who are a little more combative, the people who are a little more afraid and so on. That's just fine. Once again, however, there's so many good subjects, there is really no need to limit yourselves to the ones that have artificial barriers in place. So with those ideas in mind, we're going to go on to the next video where you'll see me with another client and we will go through the first level of the training process.